Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Khierstyn Ross. I'm host of the Crowdfunding Uncut show on YouTube and podcast if you are a listener of that as well. This week I'm so excited because I'm bringing on another crowdfunding advisor. Now, you're probably wondering why I'd bring on another crowdfunding advisor to my show when I am a crowdfunding advisor. It's because, who better to talk about crowdfunding with than somebody who knows the space probably a lot better than I do. I consider myself a student of it, even though I've had a really good track record in the year that I've been in it. But Clay Hebert, he is from crowdfundinghacks.com. He is responsible for raising over $50 million worth of funds on IndieGoGo and Kickstarter. He's been derped the Sherpa of crowdfunding, even though he's going to deny that. And I'm just really, really excited for this show. Clay and I get into some specifics around differences between physical product campaigns and more cause-based campaigns or creative campaigns. That's one of the cool reasons I wanted to bring him onto the show, because a lot of my listeners, they come to me raising money for films, for theater productions, for causes, for initiatives, and I have only had experience in physical products. But if you look at Clay's portfolio, he has a really well-rounded portfolio. So these are some of the things we're going to get into today, is how can your campaign differ and what you should look out for if you're doing something that's a physical product versus more cause or initiative based. And also, what are the 5 things that creators do that may potentially screw up your campaign. So 5 things you should not do. That, as well as this is just an epic, well-rounded discussion of crowdfunding between 2 people who work in the space every single day. And I'm just really excited. So let's get started. So if you're new to the show, I want to help you get started. I want to send you our most popular episodes as well as our crowdfunding toolkit, which is loaded with information to help you know how to build your audience, validate your product, create a killer campaign video that is going to convert, as well as other things to help you create a well-rounded campaign. So to take advantage of that, if you are in the US, please text UNCUT to 66866. Everywhere else, just head over to the website. It's crowdfundinguncut.com. You could sign up and then we will get that to you. But without further ado, let's jump into the interview. Clay, finally, I get you on the phone.
I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, man, I think I spent months tracking you down. First thinking, man, this guy really must hate me. He downloads my guide and then nothing. But then I realized I was emailing the wrong email address.
And then we got lost in LinkedIn messages, which is like the YouTube comments and LinkedIn messages are like the basement of the internet, right?
Yeah, I don't even do LinkedIn. Yeah, no. I remember I tell people, sorry, I'm not very big on LinkedIn. Email me, and then they'll continue to reply to me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Did you not read what I said? Whatever.
Exactly.
So who gave you the name the Crowdfunding Sherpa? Was that you or?
I don't think I would call myself a Sherpa, but somebody may have at some point. I think words are interesting like that, like Sherpa, because it's better. I think it's better than guru or anything like that, because who calls himself a guru? But Sherpa, some people know what it means, like to guide somebody along that. But I think not enough people would know what Sherpa means to use that as your own brand. When people ask what I do, I just say I help entrepreneurs fund their dreams.
Yeah. So that's amazing. I'm dying to know how you got to raise $50 million and advise startups. But why don't we just start from the beginning? I want to know how you got into crowdfunding to begin with, because that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. I'll back up a little bit before that. So I spent 10 years doing corporate consulting at Accenture. It was fine for a career 1.0, working with really smart people, working really hard, etc. But about 6 or 7 years into it, I discovered Seth Godin's work and tried to bring that kind of innovative thinking inside of this huge aircraft carrier of a corporation, and they weren't too into it. So in 2008, 2009, I got a chance to sort of leave Accenture and study for 6 months with Seth Godin. So that really helped me jump in the deep end of marketing and entrepreneurship and creativity, and was fortunate enough to just sit at a table with Seth Godin and 8 people for 6 months, which was just mind-blowing.
This is amazing.
Yeah. And then, so after that, it was amazing. And so right after that, I said goodbye to my decade-long 6-figure salary and corporate consulting career to start completely from scratch and have no clients and no customers and no revenue, and sort of hit Control-Alt-Delete on my career and started over, hung out a shingle, started helping initially authors, and then smaller companies, and then medium-sized companies, and then bigger companies with marketing and digital, social, and understanding.
So, I'm wondering, because I'm just dying to know, how did you get involved with Seth Godin?
So,
because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, sure. So I was always into learning. I was always into reading and learning, and I was always into the concept of entrepreneurship. There's a picture from when I'm young. Maybe we can link it up in the show notes. My brothers and I were, for the 20 minutes of our youth that we weren't fighting, we created a band in the basement, and my brother was on drums, my other brother was on guitar, and I decided to haul a desk on stage to be like P. Diddy, like making the band. I wasn't a bassist. I said, I'm going to book you guys gigs. The phone wasn't even plugged in, and that kind of thing. So I had an interest in entrepreneurship from young, but in 2000, I graduated college in 99, and I was interested in entrepreneurship, and I went to school for business, but I didn't want to be an entrepreneur in 1999 right out of the gate. So I went to work for Accenture, flying on a plane through O'Hare in 2003, was reading a business book, finished it, needed another book to read on the next leg of my flight. They were calling my name, and I went into the bookstore, and there's this weird looking little purple book, and I was in a hurry. So I grabbed it, and it was Purple Cow by Seth Godin. And it crawled into my head and blew my brain out like a Tarantino movie, as like, there's a totally different way to think about marketing and business and innovation. And I was just like, I think I read it twice on that flight, and then went home, subscribed to Seth's blog, bought his other books, went down the rabbit hole, found Naked Conversations, Clue Train Manifesto, all these other books about the early stages of blogging. There were even forums before blogs were even popular. People were talking about how forums were changing the web and changing customers. So then for 3 or 4 or 5, tried to bring that thinking editor, and they didn't really hear it. So that's kind of Seth. And then when he wrote a blog post at the end of 2008 called "If You Could Change Your Life, Would You?" And I was trying very hard at the time to change my life, as in I knew I wanted to do marketing in entrepreneurship and creativity, and I was trying to do that, but inside my company of 400,000 people, that wasn't super welcome. So I was helping clients with marketing, and then the phone rang, and it was a friend of a former client, and her Kickstarter campaign was live. This was January of 2012. And she said, I heard you're the marketing guy. Do you know anything about Kickstarter? I'm just a filmmaker. And I knew of Kickstarter. I'd kind of been seeing it and watching it. I had run a campaign myself. And I said, well, how have you promoted your campaign? And she said, well, I haven't really. I don't really know how to do marketing. And it was a very specific, as you know, like the best campaigns are, a very specific campaign with a very specific customer. It was called Gold Star Children, and it was a documentary that she was making about connecting her generation with the current generation. So Gold Star Children are children who've lost parents in Iraq, in the war. And she lost her father in Vietnam, so she was making a documentary about connecting her generation with the kids who are losing parents in the current conflicts. And amazing thing, it was already live, which, as you know, is not the best time to jump in and fix these. But it was a small goal, and I said, how do you promote it? Her ideal tribe and her ideal customers were military families, obviously, for this documentary. So all we had to do was find the right pockets and sub-tribes of military families to get the film in front of, and then help her get it funded. And I was just told another friend over a basketball game a week later, and he said, oh, my friend Slim is launching a book on Kickstarter soon. And as you know, word of mouth, and people pretty soon helped a whole bunch of projects, and people started to.
That's crazy.
Call me.
Wow. And so at that point, when you were starting to consult, I know in my journey, like I'm only a year into it, but I'm still trying to map out what my consulting looks like. Yep. So did you know you wanted to niche into crowdfunding, or how long did that take you?
It wasn't a super proactive choice. And unlike unlike leaving Accenture, doing the Seth Godin program for 6 months, and then starting the marketing consulting, that was a total pivot, to use my friend Jenny Blake's term. This wasn't so much a pivot because, as you know, good crowdfunding is just good marketing. And what I was doing during the day was good marketing. So whether it was applying storytelling, pricing, scarcity, urgency, copywriting to my corporate clients, that was one thing. To apply it to crowdfunding was not that much of a shift. It was just kind of a different package, a different outcome. And then by doing it, I learned the nuances, certainly some mistakes early on, figuring out, how tightly you have to focus, how to craft an effective campaign, the pre-launch marketing. But, one of the biggest things I talk about in crowdfunding is that crowdfunding campaigns get funded before they launch, not while they're live. And that is a direct derivative from Seth Godin's permission marketing, which is building the ability to deliver personal, anticipated, and relevant messages to people who want to hear them. And then I just took that and applied it to crowdfunding and showed people how, if they have this idea, who's your customer, where do they hang out, how do you build permission with them ahead of time? Sometimes that could be a landing page, but you got to build permission, you got to build a platform. And then I like to say, launching a campaign, it should be like popping a balloon, not like throwing a Hail Mary and hoping that people find you, right? As you know, the platform is not going to bring you your people. You should find your people ahead of time.
You say that so much better than me.
I'm sure you say the exact same thing.
Well, in like a really weird roundabout, I just released a video that like talks about this, but I'm like, man, just should have had you script it. But yeah, but it's exactly that. Because how many people do you get send you their campaigns now after they've launched to say, help, it's 7 days in and we're dead?
Yep. Yeah, it's a lot like, I'm sure Ryan Holiday gets people saying, I heard you're the guy to make my book a New York Times bestseller. Oh, when do you launch? Next week. That it's too late. It's literally too late. It doesn't matter if it's, there's not much difference between a week before, the day of, or a week into it. You need to start, as you know, 6 months ahead of time. Yeah.
So when do people bring you in to the business? Like, are you as far out as possible or what?
I've sort of changed the offerings that I have and the way I work. And so one thing that, sometimes I say, like, let all the mistakes I've made be the torches that light the way, because, you learn this stuff by doing it. And I've learned a lot by making mistakes. And one of those mistakes was the offering model for this, right? There's lots of people doing lots of different things, from, free content, which I totally believe in. And you and I both publish a lot of free content, to, there's ebooks and there's online courses and everything else. And then there's the consulting side. Consulting, one of the things I learned from Seth and Zig Ziglar and others, is it's helpful to sell to people who have money, and even better if they know you, like you, trust you, and they've bought something exactly like that before. So it's easier to sell someone their fifth car than their first car, right? You have to get some 16-year-old or 17-year-old. That's a harder sale than, you who's going to walk into the dealership and be like, I know what I want, and pick it out and buy it, because buying a car is not a big deal. Same with the house, same with anything. Most people doing crowdfunding have never bought crowdfunding services before. So it's the first time they're buying that thing. And secondly, almost by the definition of crowdfunding, they don't necessarily have a lot of money. So it's maybe, even though it's a wildly growing industry, by all other aspects of definition of the customer, it's maybe not the ideal customer. Somebody who doesn't have money, who's never bought what you're about to sell them, is not a great place to start. So that's one reason it took me a while to figure out the right offerings. I believe that people should learn how to do crowdfunding, whether they take an online course, hire a consultant, or do so I offer these workshops that are kind of these intensive, everybody get together in the same room and crank it out. No matter what you do, the words I hate the emails that sort of turn me off are the ones that I get, and they said, I'm just really busy running the business. Can you just do my crowdfunding campaign for me? And my response to them, which I've taken a while to craft a firm, maybe a little bit sarcastic, but direct response, is running your own crowdfunding campaign is like getting an MBA. I was fortunate enough to get an MBA from Seth Godin. Running your own crowdfunding campaign is like getting a specific MBA in your own business. So why in the world would you outsource that to somebody else? Unless you're going to partner with them and really learn it. If you want to hire a consultant like you or me or whatever, and help, learn how to tell your story, learn who your customer is, and learn along the way, and treat it like the MBA in marketing that it is, that's fine. But please, anyone listening, do not just say, you know what, I'm going to cut a check and someone's going to deliver me a funded crowdfunding campaign, because more than the money, you're missing out on what's probably the best educational marketing opportunity, your own business in the entire world, you know?
And the way, like, my base packages, I have the management and then I have just the one-off advising.
Yep.
And I won't even touch management if the founder doesn't take a proactive role in the business,
Right.
have resources because they need a budget to spend. So they need to show they're resourceful with government grants or whatever, and have an amazing product that I think there's a niche for it.
Right.
But you're right. It's almost like if they're not willing to put in the hard work, they don't really care about the business and they don't really care about the losses. And to me, I see crowdfunding as a way, with at least physical products where I work in, as a way to launch an online business. And if you're not there it's like you're abandoning your child. You know, you miss out on the most critical early parts. Why even do it? Yeah,
exactly. If you already know, it's just the ultimate way to learn how to market your product and your campaign. And the worst thing is when people say, I'm too busy running the business. I'm like, what's more core to the business than marketing? Marketing is everything. Marketing touches every aspect. And if you're already good at marketing, as in you're like, you know what, I have this handled, well, then running your own crowdfunding campaign should be easy, right? Like Seth Godin didn't need any help when he launched his Kickstarter. He crafted it, and but he's someone who knows marketing, so he didn't need to, hire a consultant, and he was funded, the second it went up, right? If you have that kind of business, then it's fine. Then you don't need a consultant. That's why this concept of completely outsourcing it, not partnering with somebody, doesn't make sense. So it took me longer than it should have to figure that out. And then I've created, the online course model, and then I kind of go that way, or the deep workshops. If they have the budget and there's enough time between when we do it and when we launch, I really enjoy the model where we do a call like this, like a video call, to tee up the in-person workshop. And then I'm in my element when I'm teaching on a whiteboard and drawing and strategizing and frameworks and copy and that kind of stuff. And so I love getting the client and their whole team. That's one benefit of that offering, is they can bring the whole team. So I just did this with a company in Brooklyn called Chess at 3, really cool company. They teach kids as young as 3 years old how to play chess, because they figured out how to teach chess using stories that are hilarious.
Wow.
So they're creating a book and a kind of chess set where the pieces in the chess set align to the stories that they tell to teach these kids. Really neat company. And the best thing to do was, they were like, we honestly don't have time to take this multi-week, multi-month online course, but we can hit the pause button and get everybody in the room at the same time. So I went to Brooklyn, taught them, filled up the whiteboard as fast as I can talk and as fast as they can take notes. We recorded the whole thing. And that's just a really nice model, because it's kind of accelerated. It's definitely a lot more expensive than like an online course, because it's high touch and it's in person. But that works really well. And I've done that a bunch of times. So it's kind of like I went away from the middle model into the free content, the online course, and then super high touch workshops that don't sort of drag on and on.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
I like that. Now you've been on several campaigns. I'm wondering, do you have a favorite you've worked on?
Yeah, my favorite one, just because it's a fun story and it's an interesting and a neat product, but it's also educational. And I know that's what a lot of your listeners are looking for. So Lee Miller came to me when I was living in New York. He was in New York as well. He came to me and he said, this is what I'm doing. He showed me the product. It's called Kittyo, Kittyo. Really neat product.
Yes, yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So I don't even know if you know the story, but so you'll laugh. Lee came to me. Yeah. I said, if you're willing to come all the way to the West Side, Hell's Kitchen, where New Yorkers, pretend like they don't like to go. We had coffee, and he showed me the mock-up, and I was like, yeah, that's the kind of thing that could do really well in crowd. He's like, will this succeed on Kickstarter? And as you know, the answer to that is it depends on what else you do. And so I said it could. It's the kind of thing that could. And then I said, I was sort of out ahead of my headlights and hadn't asked him the right questions. I said, so Lee, how many emails do you have? And he kind of looks at me funny and he says, 2. I said, 2? How do you have only 2 emails? Like, I was thinking maybe he launched his landing page that morning or whatever. And I was like, how do you have 2 emails? He said, I use one for work and one for personal. I was like, oh no, not your emails, the emails of the people, the permission. Yeah.
Your list.
Like, he literally was like, what do you mean list? What's a list? What's a landing page? And then I realized his expertise was in branding and creating this really high-end mock-up of the product. So I explained to him what a landing page was, and then he signed on as a client. We worked together and built this amazing landing page. And it was funny because like the first version that he came back with was a mile tall. The opt-in was way at the bottom, 97 cat puns. It was like branded and beautiful, but like everything was wrong with it. And so I said, okay, you get one cat pun, spend it wisely. And the headline, we simplified the headline to play with your cat even when you're not home. Just that simple, which he initially thought that was too simple. But one of the things that I teach, and I'm sure you teach, is, you know, simple, clear benefit of what it is. So we tested until that page converted at 40%. And then in 6 months, he promoted it in the right places, in the super niche, the people who care about a $200 device to play with their cats when they're not home. Sites like House Panther, which is one of my favorite niche sites. Unless you're a cat, you know, it's designed within reach for cat freaks. Like the tagline for House Panther is the premier online magazine for design conscious cat people. So that's where those people hang out. And there's only, maybe it has 50,000 uniques a month. So it's like a big blog, but it's not a big media site, but everyone there wants Kidio, right? Wants the unit. So he did a giveaway and got 2,000 emails in a weekend of that thing. And then did that a bunch of times with different sites and Facebook and this and that. And in 6 months, there were 13,000 emails of people who raised their hands, saw the Kidio, wanted it. And then when he launched, it was like, you know, like the best campaigns. It's like popping a balloon. He launched to the tribe, didn't launch, and then hoped that the platform brought him the tribe. And he was funded in 36 minutes, 200% funded on the first day, and raised over, I think, $270,000. Yeah, it was fun.
That's really awesome.
It was really fun because I was giving a talk in Manhattan to the Manhattan Inventors Association the evening of Lee's launch. It just happened that the dates coincided, and so here's a room full of 200, you know, self-described inventors in Manhattan, and here's this guy who's a straight up inventor who launched that morning. So it was fun watching everybody, you know, take notes because the campaign was 12 hours old, and they were like watching the dollars crank up. So.
Oh my God. Yeah. No, that's fantastic. I saw your blog on the Kidio landing page.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Yeah. So yeah, that was really good. Whenever, sometimes when I'm like, I need a good idea, like a good understanding of what a landing page is to show someone like what you're not supposed to do. I'm like, yeah, go to this one.
Yeah, there
which is good.
Early versions of that where I kind of gave him a budget. You get one cat pun, and the headline's going to be a lot simpler, and the opt-in's going to be above the fold. And he had great design and branding, like the hero image and stuff was rock solid. So it only took maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks to get to that landing page.
Like shifting some stuff around. Exactly. So I'm curious, with a giveaway, did you run into problems first backtrack a bit. With the giveaway, were you giving away the physical product or something else? Because you may not have had the physical product pre-launch.
Yeah, so he did a giveaway with the House Panther, and it was enter to win a Kidio unit when it was produced. So the winner got one eventually. Great. But yeah, you're right. There's often a gap, especially as you know, hardware is hard, and the gap between promise and delivery.
So one thing I noticed by going through some of your campaigns is you do physical products, but you also do causes or the creative side with like theater productions and stuff. Do you notice a difference in promotion between a physical product and cause-based? Yeah,
definitely. And one of the biggest mistakes that I see, and I'm sure you see this as well, is when people conflate crowdfunding with fundraising, or said another way, conflating rewards-based crowdfunding with donation-based crowdfunding. They think that because there's this aspect of fundraising, that if they write a book that they should charge $20. And my argument is I can go get Seth Godin, any book he's ever written, for $9.99, and I can get brand new Malcolm Gladwell for $11.99. So why would I pay $20 for a stranger's PDF, right? And so I have this concept called below MSRP, and I challenge creators to think about, what's the MSRP for what you're offering? If it's a download of a movie, we don't even really pay for individual movie downloads anymore, maybe on iTunes. So it's
$5 maybe.
Yeah, exactly, $5. But it's digital. You're going to make it anyway. Once it's made, the backer, you know, we always see this $10, you know, expensive thank you is what I call it. One of the reward levels you should avoid is it's kind of a slap in the face. Like, you've done the hard work to identify the tribe. Maybe you got them to click on a blog or a Facebook ad or something. You got them to your page. They watched your video. They're that far down the funnel. And then the first thing you're going to offer them for $10 is essentially not only nothing, but like we'll tweet your name from our Twitter account that we haven't set up yet. Like, who cares? Nobody wakes up in the morning wanting that. Instead, say for $1, for the lowest amount that Kickstarter can even allow me to charge you, I'm going to give you either a PDF or a video series or a digital pack or wallpapers and any number of relevant creative things. So even with the creative projects where it's maybe less about a tangible physical product like Kitio, I challenge them to say, what digital rewards can you come up with that will be interesting and relevant and valuable to the people that are going to back you? Because that mindset shift, and it usually clicks right away. People realizing that, hey, this isn't like, give me money and maybe I'll give you some stuff. This is, you're here before anyone else. You're trusting in me before the art is created. Therefore, I'm going to give you a super good deal. And if you see like on Seth Godin's Kickstarter or AJ Leon or any of these, we crafted it to be a tiny, like below MSRP. So you get, all these things for only $22 and it's worth way more than $22. That's the way to increase conversion. Yeah.
I mean, the thing too I noticed about, say it's a theater production you're raising money for, or something that's physical based. Have you had any success with, if it's a theater production, we're just going to say, and they will sell tickets for pre-screening, but it's something physical. You have to physically be in LA to get this. Have you seen any good rewards packages to not limit themselves so much because their space, like they're physically present, if you know what I mean?
And I think that's great. Like, and it's really just thinking through logically how we buy things, right? I've been to movie premieres in LA, but it was because I was already in LA and a friend of mine said, hey, I have free tickets to this premiere. I'm like, oh, cool. That's awesome. That'll be fun. I have never bought tickets to a premiere while I live in New York and flown myself with my own money to LA to see a movie. Like, most people don't do that. And yet you see it as Kickstarter reward level offerings all the time. They're like, hey, somebody might want that. And so a simple little thing I push back on creators is, have you ever done that? Have you ever gotten on a plane and flown to another city and gone to, paid to fly to Miami to go to a movie premiere? They're like, well, no, I haven't. But then if you never have, maybe other people won't either. So then you go into, like you said, very localized, targeted marketing. How can you partner with groups and tribes and things like that that are in the city where the premiere is? And then for the people that are not there, it's so easy. Just create something digital. It can be a signed PDF version of the script, and then offer it for like $3. Offer it super cheap. Because if someone's like, yeah, you know what, that's cool. I'm not going to get on a plane to LA, but they're all going to sign the script and scan it in, and then I get that. Or director's cut. I mean, so much of all that stuff there can be a digital version, whether that's film or PDF or audio or a Skype with the creator. They get to talk to the actor and things like that. So it's worth getting the team together to brainstorm what can be just digital. And if it's just digital, you can deliver it obviously anywhere in the world.
By the way, this episode is brought to you by BackerKit. It's a crowdfunding fulfillment software tool. So if you are looking to focus your effort on making sure your backers get their products on time and not have to deal with the nasty administration once your campaign is over, you should really check them out. They're one of the leading guys in the industry for it. They've helped close to 2,000 project creators deliver orders to more than like 3.5 million backers. So head over to backerkit.com to check them out. But yeah, it's really good. Rocks. I did have a question. Like, I came across your work because people kept finding out what I did and saying, have you heard of Clay Hebert before? I'm like, no, but now I do. And then like the more I direct people to the Tim Ferriss blog with the hacking Kickstarter through Soma, your name came up as like a Kickstarter expert. And I'm like, Tim is like an idol of mine, kind of. I really look up to him. He's the whole reason I got into what I'm doing. So I wonder, like, how did you meet him, and how did that whole
so
thing
when
go
down? Once I discovered Seth Godin's work and kind of went down the rabbit hole, then I was buying all those kinds of books from 2003 to 2008 or 9. And the 4-Hour Workweek was one of those books that came across my radar when I was kind of doing my day job during the day and then exploring this other world at night. And so I read the 4-Hour Workweek, and I think I got the audio as well and listened to that. And then I was at Summit at Sea in 2011. And one of my sort of things that I do, I love to learn, like I said, and I have no shame and no ego about wanting to learn. So one of the things that I do is, if I'm speaking at an event, this doesn't always apply. If I'm attending an event to learn, and this is a tip for everyone listening, sit in the front row. And so I wrote a post on Medium called The Best Conference Hack. And it's simply sit in the front row. And the example that I say is, I was at Summit Series, and there's, at any given time, there were 30 different rooms with different meetings and presentations. And so I was going to one of these little workshops. It was in a little room on the boat. And I sat in the front row. It was Tony Conrad presenting on something or other. And Tim Ferriss sat right next to me. And I didn't know that sitting in the front row was something that he did, but everyone fills in from the back, right? Because we get taught from a young age to, not stick out, not stick your head out, not be so visible. And so I'm like, no, I want the speaker to see me if I raise my hand. I want to be able to hear them and take the best notes. There's all sorts of reasons to sit in the front row. And so Tim plopped right down next to me, and we started chatting, and I told him I loved his stuff and always try to support him, by buying his books. I think the work that he does is amazing. I think his podcast is literally one of the top. Maybe it's my favorite. It's the podcast that I listen to the most because it's such interesting people. Tim has really come into his own with being an interviewer. I think the progress from his first podcast to now. And what's interesting is, he's so smart, and who would have ever thought that he'd have a better, communication medium than his blog. But I think with his podcast, it's been fun to watch him, evolve so well. He was very good when he started, but now it's kind of funny. I think one of his biggest skills in podcasting is his restraint. He, when Jon Favreau or Kevin Kelly is riffing and going on and on and on, Tim has the patience to not, for the most part, interrupt or interject. And then you just get the best stuff because people just go on and on and on. So, so that's how I connected with him. I sat in the front row, and he plopped down next to me, and we chatted. And I just try to keep in touch. One time he was in New York for, he was writing the 4-Hour Body. No, he was writing the 4-Hour Chef. And from the 4-Hour Body, I had bought the little electronic device called Body Metrics that measures like your muscle and your body fat. And I had bought that, and he was actually in New York, and he shot me an email or a text or something. He was like, "I'm in New York. Do you have that thing?" Because he had forgotten his and he didn't bring it. So I dashed and brought it down to him, where he was doing something with Melcher Media with his 4-Hour Chef book. But super great guy, and just the content that he just puts out. I think having gone to business school and knowing pretty well what's in an MBA curriculum, I would say his podcast alone is so much better and more rich than sort of an MBA as far as actual knowledge, right? You're not going to get the sheepskin that you may want to go to Harvard, but as far as actually learning, just his podcast alone has so much deep information. So that's how we met. I'm a huge fan, honored to be connected with him.
And I'm assuming you helped him with the Soma project.
Soma wasn't his; it was Mike Del Ponte. And that's so that whole post. So Soma, he does advise them. And I helped Mike a little bit, but Mike is a little bit like Seth Godin. He did not need a lot of help. Mike's a great marketer, but I helped him a little bit when he was going to launch Soma on Kickstarter. A few people said, "Hey, you should talk to Clay," and he reached out, and we had maybe like 2 45-minute phone calls. So it wasn't like I was a hardcore consultant on the project, but I told him these things. And as you know, when you're working with really smart marketers, it's really just, violently agreeing with each other for an hour and being like, "Oh yeah, that makes sense." And I showed Mike the Bitly link and how you can track your Bitly traffic and stuff like that. But you can move a lot faster with people who sort of are already good marketers.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, in terms of, I'm going to ask you two things. The first one I would like to get into is, you obviously in crowdfunding, you make mistakes, and I'm wondering what the biggest mistake is that you have either done yourself or you've seen other people make outside of launching with no audience, and what that is. Yeah.
So I did a guest podcast on the $100 MBA, my friend Omar Zenhom's show, called The 5 Biggest Crowdfunding Mistakes That I See Often. And like you hinted at, launching without a tribe is the biggest and most obvious one. Because if you do that, if Kidio could have had not the best video, they could have had not the best reward levels. And if you have a passionate tribe who wants your thing, as you know, that will gloss over a lot of other problems or issues. It's a little bit like in a startup, if you have, users and revenue and profit, that can be the paint that glosses over a lot of other things. So not launching without a tribe, number one. Number two, I would say the biggest mistake I see is, again, pricing above MSRP, $20 for my ebook as an unknown author, as opposed to half the price of Seth Godin. You shouldn't be twice the price of Seth Godin, right? So figuring out the equivalent MSRP, creating digital rewards that cost you nothing to fulfill, and then giving it as much value as possible. So pricing rewards. Too many reward levels, maybe not the biggest mistake, but I see that people, they think that more reward levels equals more money. I think with Kidio, we did have like a little $1 level for people who didn't want the device. But other than that, the only reward level was the device. It was super early bird, and then regular Kickstarter price, which again was still well below MSRP. He knew what it would be in the store afterwards. And so I think it was $199 full retail. And so Kickstarter was $99 super early bird, $119 early bird, and $129 on Kickstarter, still like $70 below. And I think that kind of tiered system. So I guess the mistake is charging too much or having basically irrelevant or uninteresting or too expensive perk levels. Next biggest mistake is the video being too long. I tell people 2 minutes or less, and you have to sell me if you want it to be more than 2 minutes. And if you don't think you can make a great video in 2 minutes, because everyone says, oh, but my story, and I have to make sure to say this and that. And then I just show them Jake Brownstein's videos because they're all like 157, 156, 158. There's no magic in that particular number. It's just that he's able to tell craft an amazing story. You can talk quickly. Video is a great medium where you can show certain images while you're talking about other things, right? And so there's no magic about under 2 minutes, but it's a good thing to shoot for, where if they make a banging video that's 2:28, that's fine. But what I see often is, 5 minutes and 6 minutes. And we all know that most of us don't watch videos on the internet that are longer than that, unless it's, an interview or whatever. And so you got to keep it moving, because nobody backs until they finish watching your video. So let them finish watching your video soon. And then one thing I teach people is, if you have things that are absolutely critical, they don't have to hit the cutting room floor. The cutting room floor can be other videos down below the description. So one of my favorite campaigns I worked on was called Jewel Bots, with a startup out of New York City. Two young women, Sarah Chips and Brooke Moreland, made a really cool product called Jewel Bots, friendship bracelets that teach girls how to code. So imagine being in 7th or 8th grade and having these friendship bracelets that then you can use your phone and code an Arduino and make it buzz if you get an Instagram like and things like that. It's such a cool product, and they're super cool female founders in New York and the tech scene. And they had a great testimonial from Bill Nye, the Science Guy, and they had a really great video with cool production and everything else, but it was like 3.5, 4 minutes. And so I told them, I said, I really think you got to keep it short, even though it's great. Like, there was nothing wrong with their video other than it being too long. And so I said, how can you tighten this up? So we cut pieces out of it and they moved it down below, and they made the top video under 2 minutes. It was nice and I think it was like 130 or 140. Then the testimonial with Bill Nye, the Science Guy, because you can see the thumbnail. Like, you can see Bill Nye there, and then you're like, oh, I know what that is, whether I click play on it or not. And then the kind of cooler, deeper, more interesting version of the video was down below in their campaign. So you got to keep that main campaign video short. So those are three of the biggest ones: is no tribe, either irrelevant or overpriced, above MSRP perks, and then the video.
Right. And are you familiar with Ravian, the down cooling jacket? It's a down-filled jacket that is
cool.
I can't explain it right now, but they raised like 1.3 million. And one of my favorite uses of multiple videos was they didn't, in tech campaigns, people have concerns. And so what they did was they proved that the thing was waterproof, because they have, device storage and all this. They proved it was waterproof by the founder putting on the jacket and jumping in a pool multiple times with it, with like devices all through it. And then he would pull the devices out and say, it still works.
Yeah. My friends, I helped my friends Doug and Jimmy with Manal. That's one of my other favorite campaigns, other than Kidio, because they've just become really good friends. Created a backpack. They created the scratch their own itch, like a lot of great crowdfunding products, built the product that they wanted. And to your point, like, they were super great at making the video, and one of the pieces was the waterproof rain cover, and they had like a big like fireman's hose and Doug holding up the thing and showing how waterproof it was. So yeah, it's like have fun with your video.
Yeah, I love that. So you got the 5 mistakes that people need to watch out for. I've actually taken some notes on that mentally. But what is the top thing that you see creators doing really well that should be done more of?
Focusing on super niche. I mean, this gets talked about often in marketing and internet marketing circles, but it doesn't get executed very well, which is defining your customer avatar, right? It's Jessica. She's 31 years old. She lives in the Upper West Side of Manhattan. She works for this ad agency. She reads Refinery 29. She reads Monocle magazine. She, like super specifically define one person. And to go back to Tim Ferriss, years ago, I don't know that he still thinks about this all the time, but when he was growing his blog, he wrote for one specific person, and he had this fake avatar. Joe is 32 years old, former D2 college athlete, used to have a 6-pack. Now he's a little bit overweight, wants to date more. And so he wrote
full wants and needs.
He wrote specifically for that person. And then, as you know, when you focus on that person, you get the ripples in the pond, and other people like you find Tim Ferriss, even though you look nothing like his avatar, because he writes for that. Our problem is we try to reach everyone and we dilute our message. And so one thing, when people do it really well, you got to find your House Panther. You got to find your version of House Panther, right? The premier online magazine for design conscious cat people. Who even knew that site existed, right? And that is where he got 2,000 emails in a weekend, because everyone there, I mean, that's my biggest, as far as what people do when they succeed. Manal was not trying to reach everyone. They weren't trying to get the business traveler who travels with Accenture and pulls the roller bag. They weren't trying to get him to switch to Manal. They were reaching digital nomads like themselves, and they raised $1 million over 2 campaigns because they focused super specifically on who they're trying to reach. So the tip would be ignore everyone. And I say, the bad news is 99.9% of people do not care about your crowdfunding project. And then I tell them, that's actually not bad news. That's great news, because now you know you can ignore 99.9% of people. Go find those 0.1%, and they live at sites like House Panther if you're Kidio, or certain sites if you're Manal. So figure out your avatar and go deep and go niche and go bottom up. Like everyone goes top down, like, oh, I want to get covered in this press and this and that. No, start with an Excel list, and you should pretty much pretend like you're building it from the bottom up. Once you have 1,000 names, if you have 1,000 people, that's pretty much all you need for most crowdfunding campaigns. If it's $50,000 you're trying to raise and you get your average backer contribution to $50, 1,000 people and you're done. So when it's such a mindset flip, because when the press talks about these things, we think about it top down and how do we get it in these big, huge press outlets, which have a value, but not the value that people think they do. And think bottom up, think like, who are my 1,000 people that care?
Yeah. It's why you got to start focused as well. So one of my last couple questions. The first one is, do you IndieGoGo or Kickstarter, and why?
So the answer is not a sexy one. It depends. The analogy that I use is, let's say you have a friend. I don't know your friend, but let's say you're in London right now. You're planning your birthday party for your best friend. Now, one option is a bar that has the best DJ spinning the best club music and thumping music and vodka Red Bulls and neon and dance until 5 a.m. and sweating, all that stuff. The other option is a really cool, let's say Irish pub with, a guitar player and sawdust on the floor and Guinness and Jameson and the whole Irish vibe. Now, which bar is the one that's right for your friend's birthday party? I don't know. I'm sure your friend would really prefer one over the other, but it depends on who your friend is. And so with Kickstarter and IndieGoGo, I tell people with knowing nothing else, it's impossible to answer that. It depends. First of all, is it a fit for Kickstarter? Certain things are allowed on IndieGoGo that are not allowed on Kickstarter. If it's any sort of health or supplement or a pill, there's certain obviously requirements. So when people ask that, what they're really asking is which platform is going to help my campaign succeed. And so then I say, okay, go to the next step for that. First of all, to succeed, it needs to be allowed on that platform. So I'm always surprised when people don't read the basic, what's allowed, fine print. Read the fine print. Oh, that doesn't work for Kickstarter. So then once it's allowed, then look and say, do the research, find 10 other campaigns in your category and ideally subcategory and say, how did they do? Does the thing that I'm making seem to perform better on Kickstarter or perform better on IndieGoGo? So that can be 10 minutes of basic self-research. And then decide how much you're going to use certain tools. So IndieGoGo is much more advanced with things like affiliate links and contests, and allows you to say, oh, Khierstyn sent me 100 clicks and 50 backers and $2,500. And so therefore I can run a contest and reward people like that. Kickstarter is hard to do that. There's ways to use other plugins like Kickbooster and things to do that, but it's just not as built into the platform as it is with IndieGoGo. So Blue Smart Suitcase, they ran a really cool contest where even if you didn't buy one, if you got 5 people to buy one, you won essentially a Blue Smart Suitcase, like an affiliate thing. So if you're an advanced internet marketer and you understand affiliates and you want to run a program, that might be a ping pong ball in the bucket of choosing IndieGoGo. So it's really this big sort of side-by-side thing. I'm sort of working on a big epic blog post about that choice, because everyone asks that question and the answer is never as simple as people always say.
Yeah, what I really like is IndieGoGo gives you ownership over your email addresses immediately. And so if you know how to use that, like with TapLock, my second campaign, we made assumptions on our demographic, but then tested those assumptions as soon as we had enough data. And we realized like, oh, who we were targeting we thought it was 60-40 male female, but it was actually 90% males that were buying our product. And so we shifted everything. If we were on Kickstarter, we could not have done
on Kickstarter,
that.
you don't get the emails until after. You're right.
So, exactly. But it's like, you're right, campaign specific.
And that's another reason to, do so much more with the landing page. Like with Lee Miller, if he would have gotten those 13,000 emails and understood his demographics, you can learn a lot before you launch. But you're right, with IndieGoGo getting those emails right away, and then, retargeting and custom audiences and all that other stuff. So the answer is, it's a complex answer, and I always tell people too, there's more traffic on Kickstarter, but that's a really dumb reason to choose it by itself. I'm not saying don't choose it, but I always say choosing Kickstarter because it has more organic traffic is like choosing a wedding venue because they've sold more drinks than the other wedding venue in the history of the venue.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. No, this has been great. I think we could talk for like 2 hours, but perhaps in the future I bring you back onto the show.
Yes, I love that. That'd be great.
Part 2. So 2 last questions. The first one is, do you have any famous last words for the audience?
The gatekeepers are gone. You're more powerful than you think you are. Go and do it.
I love that. I might steal that.
No,
I won't. And also, where can people I didn't bring you on seeing you as competition. Like, I see you as more of like someone I really want to learn from as well, and my audience can benefit from you. So it's just like, get over your own ego. So in saying that, I want to help promote your stuff. If people want to find out more about what you're working on, your blogs and workshops, like where can they go for that?
So the basic blog is crowdfundinghacks.com, and I'll put some bonuses for your listeners let's do it at crowdfundinghacks.com/uncut. Does that work for URL? Cool.
Perfect. Yep, that works. I'll make sure to put that in the show notes as well, just in case you guys don't know how to spell that or whatever. But yeah, this has been awesome. So thanks for your time. And I'm going to go out for food in London.
Fun. Thanks for having me on. This was a blast. Sorry it took so long and for us to finally connect, but I had a blast. Thanks for doing that. And sorry for the microphone issues.
Yeah, same here. You speak my language. I love it.
Let's get together sometime.
So sounds good. Yeah. Okay, cool. See you later. Okay. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please do like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. You could do so using the big button below my face. As well, please do head over to crowdfundinguncut.com to get started with our toolkit. You could subscribe, or if you're in the US, just text UNCUT to 66866 and we'll just make sure you get that. But this has been great. Be sure to keep checking back the channel. We release weekly video to help you with a crowdfunding tip every single week. So if we haven't covered the content that you want to, or you have a burning question, please do let me know. You can either comment on a recent video or send me an email at k@crowdfundinguncut.com. So that's the letter K at crowdfundinguncut.com. And let me know. want to say thank you so much for watching. Like, I wouldn't be doing this if it wasn't for you guys. So we'll see you next time.